War of the Coprophages. You know, it's really funny how in the X-Files fandom, one of the big debates is how to pronounce the name of this episode. So, today I want to talk about War of the Coprophages. It's kind of one of those cult classic episodes of the X-Files. It kind of flies under the radar, you know, like a German cockroach. See what I did there? Uh, it's not one of the more, like, I don't think well-known episodes of the X-Files, but it's a huge fan favorite. It's a Darin Morgan episode, which means it's one of the best X-Files episodes. But what I want to talk about is how War of the Coprophages, I'm going to put that down, actually. I don't want to spray myself in the face with Raid. Is like a deep dive into Mulder's character. So in War of the Coprophages, you see Scully at home, and she's like washing her dog, she's eating a salad, she's reading a book, she's eating ice cream, living her best little Scully life. And her boyfriend Mulder keeps calling her up, bugging her with stuff about this pseudo case in Massachusetts. And spoilers, if you've never seen the episode, like, it's not even an X-File. There's no such thing as killer cockroaches. It's just the crazy humans killing one another or hurting one another, like with their own hysteria, which is, I guess, a commentary in and of itself. But what I want to talk about is Mulder's character. Like, I always say War of Coprophages Mulder is like Mulder distilled. And I'm going to tell you why. Because early on in the episode, he's on the phone with Scully and he's telling her about his praying mantis epiphany. When he was a little boy, he was climbing a tree and he saw a praying mantis walking toward him. And Mulder did exactly what I would do and fell out of the tree, I think. Anyway, I'm terrified of praying mantis too. So, you know, put that down on my checklist of relatable traits to Fox Mulder. And Scully's like immediately jumps to his defense and she's like, hey, look, a lot of people have a rational fear of insects. You know, that's not unusual. But then Mulder tells Scully he hates bugs. And that is extremely telling of Mulder's character. He says he hates bugs. And then at the end of the episode, we see Mulder typing on his computer. Oh, hello. You're not a cockroach. You're cute. This is Her Majesty, by the way. She's my bestie. And he sees this weird-looking bug, and it kind of resembles the metallic cockroaches he encountered early on in the episode. And you would think, or I would think, the first time I watched it when I was a wee little baby, back in 1996, that Mulder would be thrilled to make this discovery, you know. Oh my God, you know, here's this metal cockroach. This could be substantial evidence to all the things that have gone on in this episode up to this point. And he slams a goddamn book on the thing and kills it. And I was so, like, aghast at that behavior. But then when I grew up, I started, like, thinking about Mulder's behavior. And one thing that's always pinned on Scully that kind of riles me is she's afraid to believe. And that's true, okay? And it's also relatable. I mean, it is scary to believe in stuff that you don't understand. But what riles me about that is Mulder is just as guilty of being afraid to believe. And you wouldn't think that because Mulder believes in Bigfoot and aliens and you know, mutants and monsters and Mothmen. But, like, he is afraid to believe. He's afraid to believe outside of his little worldview. Mulder has this worldview, and as much as he, like, gripes on Scully's religion, you know, as much as he disdains her religion, Mulder has a religion too, and it makes him a big fucking hypocrite in that respect. Like, Mulder has a religion too. In Paper Hearts, John Lee Roach tells Mulder, he's like, you're not as open-minded as you think you are, as long as you can like tell yourself stories about flying saucers and little green men, at the end of the day you're going to be okay. But if Mulder like sees something beyond that of his worldview, like Dr. Baron Bond's theory about UFOs being insect swarms, or the robotics doctor telling him, little gray men are just science fiction, it's terrifying for Mulder. You see that again with Melissa Scully and how he disdains her. And then later on with Agent Reyes, when he meets her, and it's almost like a parallel with how he's dismissive of Melissa Scully, and put that down for how Reyes and Melissa are like twin souls. I only wish those two awesome gals had met. But like, and I think maybe that's the root of Mulder's disdain of Scully's faith, is he's afraid of that. I was talking with my mom, and like everything in the X-Files universe, we were having this discussion, is kind of wishy-washy. Like even aliens, which is the core of the myth art, you're like, are they real? The show always keeps us guessing, like if they are. But miracles seems to be like something that actually occurs, that actually has substantial evidence. And that's the one thing Mulder doesn't believe in. Well, it's one of a few things he doesn't believe in. And I think that's because of it's outside of his little worldview. And I think that goes back to Mulder as a child. This isn't a slight on Mulder's character. In fact, it makes him more sympathetic and relatable. That, we all tend to put things into little mental compartments to make sense of the world. And when our worldview is challenged and we have to have a paradigm shift, it's terrifying. And some people just can't do it. And I think Mulder's one of those people. He just can't do it. Like, he cannot look beyond his worldview, because that's what he's told himself since he was 12 years old and he took the blame for his sister being abducted. Like, and Scully's different in that way. Scully gets labeled as the skeptic when she is, in fact, the believer, because when push comes to shove and lives are at stake, Scully's going to believe in stuff if it gets the job done. We see that in Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose. We see that in Revelations. We see that in Beyond the Sea. And Mulder is so scared to look beyond his worldview. Like, we see that in Paper Hearts, and there's a thousand other examples. He's so scared to look beyond, what he believes to be true. And again, like I said, not a slight on Mulder's character. It makes him more sympathetic and more believable, Anyway, this is what I wanted to talk about, War of the Coprophages. I'm going to be doing more of these things, like where I talk about what I consider underrated X-Files episodes. And just kind of not doing so much as like an episode analysis, as like picking out parts of the episode I thought were relevant and interesting. So I'll be seeing you later. Say goodbye, my pretty girl. Oh my goodness. Goodbye. Watch out for killer cockroaches. Mwah.